First, I would say that it is easiest and, in my mind, much more fun to create a category and own it, as opposed to trying to dominate an existing category with something that is incrementally better. So if you try to slot what you're going to do into a pre-existing category and then be the best, it is very hard to do that in dramatic fashion. And there are a few homework assignments that I would recommend you read immediately to really hone in on how to think about this. So number one is a single chapter in a single book. It is the Law of Category in a book called 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing. Read that. And if you're thinking to yourself, I don't have time to read books. If you don't have time to read 2 or 3 books that I am recommending to you, unless you have built tons and tons of companies already, then you shouldn't build any companies at all, because you want to measure twice and cut once, then you are screwed, and it's going to be a lot harder to fix after the fact. So back to my point. Number one, the Law of Category chapter in the 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing. Related to that, and I would say 20 to 30% of this book is very, very interesting and will reinforce the same idea, which is Blue Ocean Strategy, or the Blue Ocean Strategy, and you can certainly look this up. But the entire book is worth reading. I ended up somehow reading it at Burning Man. I have no idea why it was there or why I was reading a business book at Burning Man, for God's sake. But it was probably because it was 112 degrees in the afternoon. But I digress. All right, so that is the importance of category creation or category killing. The point we have is don't obsess on scaling and becoming as big as possible. All right, so I think it was, I want to say it was BJ Novak on the podcast, famous for The Office, an incredible writer in his own right. It might have been someone else. So feel free to jump in, Adam, and correct me if I get this wrong. But they said if you work for the awards, your work will not be good. But if you do good work, the awards will come. So don't worry about winning Best of iTunes. Don't worry about getting hundreds of millions of downloads. Just do great work in a category, in a chosen product or service or offering or type of writing that makes you new, all right? And to do that, there are a few books that I would recommend. All right, so the first, and this is again related to the question of scale. So scale and scaling are dangerous words. And sometimes you don't want to have a gigantic business. I certainly don't want to have hundreds of thousands of employees that I have to account for or structure an org chart for or manage. Those are not my core strengths, nor things that I enjoy. So this book, Small Giants, I think is worth visiting and revisiting with. Subtitle, this is the gist, the main thrust. Companies that choose to be great instead of big. And this is by Bo Burlingham. This book talks about companies that may, in fact, dramatically constrain what they do to remain small. Scratch your own itch. Don't make something for an imaginary or hypothetical audience, particularly one that you don't really understand. Like, speaking as a 39-year-old male who is single, am I going to make a podcast for new mothers? Well, I could, but the likelihood of it succeeding is very, very low. Why don't I simply write the book that I can't find for myself, which is what I did with the 4-Hour Workweek, or create things that I can't find for myself? Say, a audiobook version of The Letters of Seneca, which I did when I produced the Tao of Seneca audiobook series, because I wanted it to exist. Now, how many people out there actually want to listen to letters from a philosopher who has been dead for about 2,000 years? Well, I don't know, but I know the answer is at least one. And if I can get excited about it, and I am excited about it, I bet I can convince other people to be excited about it. That's about as sophisticated as the planning. Very compatible with that. How big should your business be? How large does your enterprise need to be to fuel your life as it exists right now, to supplant even, let's say, your full-time income? Well, you really only need 1,000 true fans. And there is an essay called 1,000 True Fans, written by Kevin Kelly, founding editor of Wired Magazine, an incredible technology futurist. His predictions are incredibly accurate and have been for decades now. He's written an essay called 1,000 True Fans. A revised version of that is in Tools of Titans, my latest book also, but I think you can find both online now. And the general takeaway is that if you can find, if you can cultivate, if you can target and convert and proselytize 1,000 diehard fans, these are your true fans, the people who will buy, let's say in the case of an author, they will buy the Kindle version, they will buy the audio version, they will buy the updated and expanded edition, they will go to your events, they will effectively consume anything that you put out because they trust you up to that extent. You don't need to do anything else, all right? That is all you need, because they'll become your strongest marketing force, and they will convert other concentric circles of, say, from the true fans out to the semi-diehards, out to the casual fans. It all radiates outward. So 1,000 True Fans, I think, is a very measurable, useful heuristic to use when thinking about building. So how do you make decisions related to those 1,000 True Fans? Well, there are a few different things you can do. And I would say that a lot of it comes down to being very precise in your thinking and in your objectives. In German, there is a proverb, it is very, very German, alles mit Maß und Ziel. So that means everything with measurement and objective. And if you want to succeed in business, if you simply have a easily differentiated product, you can explain it simply, you focus on 1,000 True Fans, and you have clear, measurable objectives with check-ins, say every week or every month, every quarter, or all of the above, to track your performance in those key performance indicators, those key metrics, you are ahead of 99% of the world who's trying to start a business. And people always talk about, say, whatever the number that's thrown around. There's so many made-up numbers. Like, oh, you need 8 ounces or 8 glasses of water a day. Who came up with that? There's no science behind it. You should drink water, don't get me wrong, but then something like 85% of all startups fail, or 9 out of 10 startups fail, whatever it is. Most people who start businesses shouldn't start businesses because they do none of this planning, they do none of this thinking, they do none of this differentiating or measuring. Right? If you do those things, I think you stand at least a 50-50 chance if you actually do the prep and the other. This one right here is a gold mine. This is Peter Drucker's The Effective Executive, the definitive guide to getting the right things done. All right, this book. Forget about time management. You can fritter away hours and hours and hours and hours, days and days, maybe even weeks and weeks and months, if you get a few critical things done. If you are able to focus on the most critical things, often the most uncomfortable things, then you can outpace everybody, or just about everybody. The Effective Executive is super short. It's an incredible read, and you can see I just have notes upon notes upon notes related to this. I reread this all the time. And it's critical because being efficient, doing something well, doing something quickly does not make it important. You can screw yourself by doing a lot of unimportant things well. And that is one of the primary causes, I think, for a lot of startup failure. Being effective is doing the right things. And literally, if you were to follow me around, and I very rarely have journalists say, follow me around. They might propose doing a profile and following me for a week. We want to see what you do and how you use your time. And they expect this well-oiled machine that's making the best use of every second. Like, even if you were to talk to the crew that's here helping film this right now, they'd be like, God, this guy's like walking around in his pajamas. He's taking 20 minutes to go to the bathroom, get a glass of water. Like, this is the paragon of efficiency? No, I'm not. I'm actually focusing on being effective.